All right, let's get right down to it. What's happening, everybody? Tyrone Bowman live. It's now time for global news. Welcome to the program. Welcome to the conversation. Okay, I'm going to start talking about some local news first, and I'll go to uh, global news following this as well. So let's find out what's happening in the regional um, things. All right, let's go. All right, right off the bat here, here's some more information about an upcoming weather report. This is for the New Jersey area. NewJersey.com states that New Jersey weather, they're about to receive another 1 to 3 inches of snow to be in forecast as the state is digging out from the mammoth blizzard. This article was written by Matt Downing for NewJersey.com. Parts of New Jersey could get another 1 to 3 inches of snow tonight as the state continues to dig out from a crippling blizzard that caused widespread power outages and closed hundreds of schools. A quick moving system will bring snow to the area early Wednesday morning, primarily for areas near north of I-78 corridor, the National Weather Service said. The timing may lead to slick conditions during the morning commute. A coating to 1 inch of snow is possible for the rest of the state south of I-78, except for southeastern continues near the Jersey shore, for southeastern counties near the Jersey shore. Rain should mix with the snow and eventually change to rain Wednesday morning before ending, the Weather Service said. Another round of snow is possible Thursday night into Friday, though the timing and track of that storm remain uncertain, according to forecasters. For snow-weary residents still trying to recover, Tuesday's daytime forecast should allow for continued snow cleanup with sunny skies and highs around the freezing. So, black ice from melting snow and overnight freezing is a concern during the morning commute statewide. More than 35,000 homes and businesses remained without power as of 7:15 a.m. Tuesday. Some estimates for restoration are still days away. Temperatures could rise to the 40s on Wednesday, allowing for some melting of the snow. So I'll keep you informed of that. And this is according to MS Noun. I'm basically just going through some quick headlines before I get into some major stories. So this is MS Noun plus 4. The release of Jeffrey Epstein's files has triggered international fallout, including the arrest of former Prince Andrew and former Ambassador Peter Mandelson in London. In Mexico, officials reopened a probe into Zorro Ranch following allegations of buried bodies. Meanwhile, Ghislaine Maxwell is fighting to block further document releases as Representative Melanie Stansbury accuses President Trump of a cover-up. No, Maxwell's problem is, Ghislaine Maxwell's problem is this. She wants that full pardon. She doesn't want her sentence commutated. She wants a full, unconditional pardon. And maybe she thinks in her mind, if she blocks anything that might resemble anything coming up, that's going to put her in favor of getting what she wants. All right, let me go to the comment section. What's happening, Fred? I'd like to address people, before I get too deep into the stories, what's happening. And what's this, Barb Lund? Let me just say this, a quick disclaimer before I continue. On this channel, everybody's welcome, regardless of faith, religion, creed, color, educational status, regardless of your political persuasions. You're welcome on Tyrone Bowman Live. That's why I don't have moderators. People suggest that I should, but I don't. And that's one reason why I will not monetize this channel, because I want to have the right to be able to speak freely. All right, now let's get back to some more news. According to FoxNews.com, the DOJ is suing New Jersey over executive order limiting ICE cooperation, expanding sanctuary status. Well, that should come as no surprise. The Justice Department filed a lawsuit against New Jersey and Governor Mickey Sherrill, accusing the state of expanding its sanctuary policies and obstructing federal immigration enforcement through a new executive order. Well, aren't executive orders being thrown all over the place from Washington, D.C., and now they're upset because the mayor of New Jersey has signed an executive order? What hypocrisy. Aren't lawsuits being filed every other day of the week? And now they want to sue her because she feels as though she doesn't want the combativeness. She doesn't want the disarray. She doesn't want the murdering of people in the state of New Jersey to happen. So now they want to take her to task. The complaint challenges Executive Order Number 12, which prohibits U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, and other federal immigration officials from conducting secure arrests of criminal illegal aliens inside non-public areas of state property, including state correctional facilities. Well, that's the headline there. We'll find out where that goes, okay, ladies and gentlemen. All right, for those of you who receive SNAP benefits, there are some changes that are going to be announced. SNAP benefits to change for thousands of individuals starting in March. Let me see where this is coming from. This is coming from USA News Week. Nevada is set to implement new federally mandated Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program SNAP work requirements starting in March. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, approved in July 2025, made several changes to SNAP benefit rules under the long-standing able-bodied adults without dependents policy. That's been going on for years. That's nothing new. For those who failed to demonstrate at least 20 hours a week of employment or approved training are restricted to 3 months of assistance within a year-run span. These rules have now been expanded to include more recipients. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, which oversees SNAP, directed states to start applying the updated rules on November 1st, 2025. Although implementation schedules have varied by states, the change will impact the estimated 505,000 SNAP recipients across the Silver State. About 44,700 people in Nevada will no longer qualify for federal food assistance, the state's Division of Social Services said in a statement to the Nevada Department. If you've missed it, go and look at the video I did a while ago. It's regarding SNAP, state by state. Okay, from Newsweek, Neil Gorsuch breaks with conservative justices in the Supreme Court ruling. Justice Neil Gorsuch broke with the Supreme Court conservative majority on Tuesday in a closely divided ruling that shields the U.S. Postal Service from lawsuits, even when employees are accused of deliberately refusing to deliver mail. Gorsuch joined the court's 3 liberal justices in dissent at the court by a 5-4 vote and rejected a law brought by a Texas laundromat who said her mail was intentionally withheld for nearly 2 years. Writing the majority, Justice Clarence Thomas said a long-standing legal provision that generally protects the Postal Service from lawsuits covers claims involving the intentional non-delivery of mail. Congress, he wrote, chose broad immunity to prevent litigation that could interfere with postal operations. The decision bars Americans from suing the Postal Service over missing, delayed, or undelivered mail under federal law. Really? Well, why is it that if somebody mistakenly opens somebody's mail, they can automatically be charged? Sometimes mail carriers, they do some terrible things with people's mail, like put the mail in the trash, put it in their car, drive around with it, or just plain don't deliver the mail. Well, if you don't want the job, quit it. And then somebody who really wants to work for the Postal Service can come on. And this ties into the SNAP benefit thing. If individuals are required to work, well, some people need training. And then how about this? Where the job's supposed to come from? You can sign anything into law by an executive order, but how are you going to implement it if people can't find work and they're out there looking for work all the time? I'm talking about real sincere people now who want a job and can't get one, who are more than qualified for the remedial work that they would end up doing anyway. So don't get discouraged to my brothers and sisters out there. When you know you have the talent, the gifting, and the abilities, if nobody believes in you, believe in yourself. Have I said something wrong? No, you haven't said anything wrong. If you have the talent, the gifting, and the abilities, believe in yourself. And you'll find out that you'll be able to accomplish a lot. You haven't said anything wrong. See, I believe in me. I believe what the divine creator put within me. The gifts, the talents, the abilities, the articulation of speech. I believe in the confidence that he's instilled within me. People can call it being arrogant, whatever. If you don't have self-confidence in yourself, no one's going to tell you. Self-motivation, self-confidence, self-optimism. Sometimes people need to either listen to or read books that are going to stimulate your mind and encourage you with words of inspiration and encourage and motivation to pursue with excellence the goals that you want to achieve for your life. I can commentate with the best of them. Those boys don't have anything that I don't have. They just have the complexion for the connection. That's all they have. I can sit down and debate with the best of them and have a more qualified, quantitative debate, especially on the issues when it comes to us, because the majority of them haven't got a clue or a scintilla of a thought as to why they don't know how to articulate. We don't need other people to speak for us. We can speak for ourselves. So in dissent, Justice Sonia Maora said the majority's reading of the law went too far. While Congress provided sweeping protection for routine mail problems, she wrote it did not clearly intend to bar lawsuits when the failure to deliver mail was allegedly driven by malicious motives. Of course, joined Sotomayor and the court's other liberal justices without writing separately. All right, let's get on to one more thing in local news. This is, I think, coming out, this is according to the PhiladelphiaInquirer.com. No, I'm not going to the home page because I don't want to buy the newspaper. Well, you know what? I'll get the article from someplace else. Coming from Mexico, according to BBC News, the death of Jalisco New Generation cartel leader Nemesio Sequeira Cervantes, known as El Menchico, has sparked widespread violence across Mexico following a Sunday dawn raid involving U.S. intelligence cartel members, established hundreds of roadblocks and burned vehicles in multiple states. While officials say normalcy is returning to most regions, experts warn his killing could trigger a bloody power vacuum. All right, let's go on to some major news here. That was just basically local news. According to the Washington Post, over 150 U.S. aircraft have swept into Europe and the Middle East as Trump is mulling strikes, military strikes, that is. The article was written by Meg Kelly and Mogen Piper. The U.S. military has rapidly increased its presence near Iran, shifting more than 150 aircraft to bases in Europe and the Middle East since a second round of nuclear strike talks between the United States and Iran ended without a breakthrough on February 17. According to publicly available flight tracking data and satellite imagery reviewed by the Washington Post. The current presence of U.S. military forces in the region is among the largest in more than 2 decades since before the Iraq War in 2003. The buildup comes after President Trump threatened to attack Iran unless a deal can be reached to restrict Iran's nuclear program, although he has not indicated the goals of such an attack. Iranian officials have said a deal is possible, but that reaching one will take time. Experts who reviewed the deployment said it has surpassed the military buildup that was seen before the U.S. strikes against the Iranian nuclear program in July of last year. They said the assets being assembled are indicative of a military campaign without a ground invasion. Dozens of additional planes are aboard the warship USS Gerald R. Ford, which was spotted off the coast of the Greek island of Crete on Monday. The Ford is the second aircraft carrier sent to the Middle East, and its arrival means roughly a third of all active U.S. ships are now in the region. Quote, I'm agreeing with you. I'm sitting here listening to American news purely because, all right, it's all good. Quote, the massive level of force amassed means the U.S. military can execute on whatever Trump decides, anything from a sustained, highly kinetic campaign to more targeted, limited strikes, said Dana Stroll, a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Middle East, who is now a research director with the Washington Institute, a think tank focused on American foreign policy in the Middle East. According to NBC News, Savannah Guthrie says her family is offering $1 million reward in her mother's disappearance. This article was written by Daniel Arkin. Today, co-anchor Savannah Guthrie on Tuesday announced her family is offering a reward of up to $1 million for the recovery of her 84-year-old mother, Nancy Guthrie, who disappeared more than 3 weeks ago. Quote, someone knows how to find our mom and bring her home, Savannah Guthrie wrote in a caption, accompanying a video published on Instagram just before 9 a.m. today. In the video, a visibly emotional Savannah Guthrie urged the public to keep her mother in their thoughts. Please keep praying without ceasing, she said. We still believe in a miracle. We still believe that she can come home. Hope against hope, as my sister says. We are blowing on the embers of hope. We also know that she may be lost, she added. She may have already be gone. The Guthrie family plans to donate $500,000 to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. We know there are millions of families that have suffered with this kind of uncertainty, Savannah Guthrie said. We'll hope, hopefully and prayerfully, that her mother will be sound safely. It's been 3 weeks since the disappearance of her mother, and trying to find out what's going on. According to The Guardian, Lovry president resigns as jury heist inquiry reveals systemic failures, according to The Guardian. This article was written by Joan Henley. The president of the Louvre in Paris has resigned for 4 months after a gang of thieves broke into the museum's Apollo Gallery and made off with 88 million of Napoleonic jewelry in France's most dramatic heist in decades. Lawrence Descartes, who offered to step down in the immediate aftermath of the burglary, tendered her resignation to Emmanuel Macron on Tuesday in what the French president called an act of responsibility, the Elysee Palace said. Macron's office said the world's largest museum, which has suffered a string of crises in recent months, needed calm and a strong new impetus to successfully carry out major projects involving security and modernization. Police investigating a suspect ticketed fraud scheme. They're investigating individual involved in a ticketed fraud scheme, detained 9 people, including 2 members of staff and several tour guides earlier this month, as the museum was still reeling from the brazen daylight heist in October. What is going on out there? Where is security? How is this an inside job? How are they able to get to get away with stealing so much stuff? And this is that you had one in October, and you have another heist occurring in February. What's wrong with this picture? Why is it so? So the thieves fled with 8 items, including emerald and diamond necklace that Napoleon I gave to his second wife, Marie Louise, and a diadem set with 212 pearls and nearly 2,000 diamonds that once belonged to the wife of Napoleon III, Eugene de Montijo. I'm going to leave that article right there for interpretation. Coming from NBC 10 Philadelphia, residents are calling for suspension of the Quakertown police chief after a protester clashed. This article was written by Johnny Archer and Brendan Brightman. Some residents at a Quaker council meeting on Monday night called for the suspension of the borough's chief police due to his handling of an anti-ICE protest involving high schoolers on February 20. 5 teenagers and 1 adult were arrested in the high school walkout, which officials advised against, but still totaled around 50 students. Police responded to 5th and Broad Streets in Quakertown at around 11:30 a.m. as the students marched in the area. Police say they wanted the students to stay out of traffic as the protest reached East Broad Street, according to police. Some of the students began throwing snowballs at vehicles, kicking cars and damaging property. At some point, police and protesters began getting into a confrontation that was caught on cell phone video from several different angles. Quakertown's police chief, according to Upper Banks United, was seen in the video in plain clothes and did not identify himself before engaging with the high schoolers. He also appeared to have put a student in a headlock, the group said. Police who showed up to the meeting on Monday urged the police chief to resign or be suspended. Some even called for him to be fired. Okay, Quakertown. In that neighborhood, they're not going to accept the fact that police chief got one of the students in a headlock that probably could have caused severe damage. Here's an article written in Variety magazine by Chris Williams. The headline reads, Kid Rock predicts God will cut down journalists for reporting accurately that he's charging up to $5,000 for tour tickets. Really, I think Kid Rock is too old, first of all, to be called Kid Rock. That's number one. And number two, it's clearly evident that this man is on something. What? I don't know, but he's not playing with a full deck. Kid Rock wasn't kidding around when sang a song about finding Jesus to conclude the recent Turning Point USA alternative halftime show. He got religious again on social media Friday, although this time the musician was speaking about divine judgment, which he suggested God may enact on journalists who report on the price of his premium concert tickets. But what about God's divine judgment coming on the politicians who are causing all the havoc and trouble in this country? What about God's divine judgment for the injustices that individuals have been living through and suffering with for decades, centuries, and years? So you want to talk about divine judgment? Let's talk about divine judgment. What about divine judgment for crooked, wicked leadership around the world? And so-called Christians pretend that they don't know, they don't want to know, and even the Stone Starch conservatives like Paula White and all these people who vehemently stand behind Trump 1,000,000%, they have been appallingly silent as to what's going on in the nation today. Nowhere to be found. You can't find Paula White anywhere except over in Africa, teaming up with black preachers and fleecing black people out of their money under the guise of fake miracles happening every night. Yes, I said it. That's where you can find her. Over there in Africa, doing the same stuff over there that she was doing over here. And what disgusts me many times about what goes on in Africa, my people over there, because they don't consider us to be a part of them, they're so docile, so humble, so meek, so conciliatory toward white people in their own country. They won't even open up their mouth and speak above a whisper. They bow down to their preachers, they worship their preachers and their prophets as if they were Almighty God, even calling them daddy. And the majority of them don't have enough money, but they keep giving their money away over and over and over again. So what about divine judgment for all that kind of stuff? The singer-rapper said he will pray for members of the media who made headlines out of 5,000 top cost for first-class tickets to his Freedom 250 tour. Well, that's ridiculous. $5,000 per ticket. But he added, the Almighty will have the last word on their fate. Isn't it amazing how these conservative hypocrites will always invoke Almighty God when somebody does not agree with them? They spew more venom, more vitriol, more hatred, more venomous words coming out of their mouths, more racism and bigotry, and then holler in a moment that they are a Christian, that Jesus is only on their side. Newsflash, Jesus was not a bigot. Jesus was not a racist. Jesus was not misogynistic. Jesus loved and fought and bled and died for all the populace of the world. Jesus was not a white conservative. As a matter of fact, he stood up against the Sanhedrin Council. He stood up against the elite. He stood up against the religious ruling class who were oppressing people. What do you think he was crucified for? Let's talk about it. He wasn't crucified for singing hymns. He was crucified for standing up for what is right and just. It was the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the religious zealots and hypocrites that led to the crucifixion of Yeshua HaMashiach. Remember Saul of Tarsus, who had an epiphany on the road to Damascus when the Son of the living God supernaturally appeared to him, as is recorded in the book of Acts? And he told Paul that he had been chosen to suffer great things for his name's sake. And he sent Ananias to pray for him that he would be cured of his blindness. And this is the reason why a lot of us will never support the garbage we see going on in this country. If you're an individual and you see injustice happening and you don't have a voice and speak out against it, you're just as culpable and wicked and evil as the people that do it. And that's the bottom line. I'm going to continue to speak out against injustice for all people. I don't care who they are, where they come from, what's their creed, what's their color, what's their ethnic origin, what's their nationality. I don't care. I don't care what their sexuality is. That's between them and God. I am going to speak for the rights of all people, to have the right to be able to voice their opinion, whether people agree with their opinions or not. That's what's wrong with America now. Kid Rock wants to say whatever he wants to say out of his mouth and spew what type of venom that he wants to say, but he doesn't want anybody else to have that same freedom. The liquidity coming from him, it is insidious. So that's enough of that story. I'm never going to be a fan of Kid Rock, never. Because he's already shown his true colors. In the words of the late great poet, laureate Maya Angelou, quote, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them." According to USA Today, nearly 3 years after selling his Malibu mansion, Ye is heading to court over the renovation process for the multi-million-dollar property. This article was written by Edward Segarra for USA Today. The Grammy-winning rapper and controversial figure formerly known as Kanye West is going to trial this week after former employee Tony Saxton sued the rapper in September 2023 for various labor abuses while working at his Southern California home. 3 months later, Ye put the beachfront residence up for sale 2 years after he paid $57 million for it. The property, designed by Japanese architect Tadao Ando, includes 40,000 square feet of interior space and about 1,500 square feet of outdoor living areas, and nearly every room has views of the Pacific Ocean. Let me tell you something. If I had that kind of money to spend, I'm not spending $50 million for no home. I don't care. I don't care who it comes recommended by. I would not spend that kind of money for a home. I have better things that I could do with that kind of money. Helping people. Setting up institutions and educational institutions and places where the hungry can go to eat and sleep and et cetera, et cetera. That's what $57 million can do. Can do a lot of good. Around 200 tons of concrete, 200 tons of steel reinforcement, and 12 massive pylons were used to construct the home, according to the property's description. Selling Sunset Star, Jason Oppenheim, listed the mansion for $53 million, which made for a $4 million loss for Ye. The real estate broker said the new price reflected the property's value after the rapper removed the home's interiors. Well, you know, when rich people are arguing, it's completely different from when everyday people are arguing. So what else is going on in the country here today? All right, let's go over to Canada. Find out what's happening over in Canada. And then from Canada, I think we'll go to China. Well, you all may want to hear this article. This is about Candace Owens. This is according to OK News. This article is written by Ali Fasnelli. Quote, Candace Owens is facing criticism after promoting a new investigative show about Erica Kirk's response following her husband's death last fall. On Monday, January 23rd, the political commentator released a trailer centered on late conservative activist Charlie Kirk's widow, titled Bride of Charlie. The trailer highlighted how many people, including Candace, have found Erica's behavior in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination to be bizarre, as she made numerous public appearances as the new CEO of his organization Turning Point USA. But some on social media are slamming the media personality, describing the series as both creepy and exploitative. Well, I'm quite sure that's MAGA. Well, my question to Owens is, what does this have to do with anything? Seriously, what does this investigative documentary have to do with anything that Erica Kirk did or didn't do at the time of her husband's unfortunate death? What does this have to do with anything? What is the purpose of it? It's clearly evident that Turning Point USA has rejected Candace Owens and want nothing to do with her. That's clearly evident, ladies and gentlemen. It's clearly evident they have severed all ties with her. And, you know, some of the things that Owens has said, it ain't too cool, y'all. It's not too cool. And who else is going to be the CEO of Turning Point USA? No one but her. I'll say that again. Who else is going to be the CEO? No one but her. She's the only person who is going to continue her husband's work. No one else. All right, let's get down to make sure my feed is working, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm pulling up the stories. They're not coming up. Now let's try it again. All right, let's go over to Canada. Pardon the delay. I'm looking for something here, ladies and gentlemen. Canada news. Let's see here. Since wait a minute. Okay, let's go over to Canada for a moment. We're coming article about Canada. Canada plans to assist Cuba while Washington squeezes the island. Wow. This was written by Candace Owens. Canada said on Monday it plans to provide assistance to Cuba while the island grapples with fuel shortages after Washington moved to choke off Cuba's oil supplies. Washington has escalated a press campaign against the communist-run island and longtime USA foe in recent weeks. Donald Trump's administration has moved to block all oil reaching Cuba, including that from allied Venezuela, pushing up prices for food and transportation and promoting severe fuel shortages and hours of blackouts. Quote, "We are preparing a plan to assist. We are not prepared at this point to provide any further details of an announcement," Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand said on Monday without giving details on what such an assistance will include. The U.S. has warned that if Cuba's energy needs are not met, it could cause a humanitarian crisis. Canada said last week it was monitoring the situation in Cuba and was concerned about the increasing risk of a humanitarian crisis there. Emboldened by the U.S.'s military seizure of ousted Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro in a deadly raid in January, Trump has repeatedly talked of acting against Cuba and pressuring its leadership. Washington and Ottawa have also had tensions under Trump over issues like trade tariffs, Trump's rhetoric towards Greenland, Ottawa's attempt to warm ties with Beijing, and Prime Minister Mark Carney's remarks that middle powers should act together to avoid being victimized by the United States hegemony. Trump has said Cuba will be falling apart pretty soon, adding that Venezuela, once the island's top supplier, has not recently sent oil to Cuba. Let me ask you a question. What is important to you in the upcoming midterm elections? I want to know. What issues are important to you in the upcoming midterm elections? Because they're going to happen whether people want them to happen or not. The midterms is going to be a battle of all battles in November. There's a lot at stake, and I'm going to address it all in a separate video. I'm going to talk about it. But just to highlight on some of the things that are at stake, let's talk about jobs. Jobs are a major, major problem in America and around the world. Individuals are not getting the work that they need. How about soaring food prices? To the wealthy and the powerful and the connected, that doesn't mean anything. But to everyday people who are out here struggling to make ends meet and are constantly going to the store on a daily basis and spending money, that appears to be a big problem. Gasoline prices are still astronomically high, whether people want to admit it or not. The prices are high. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, SNAP benefits, high. Crime is high. These are a lot of the things. People's constitutional rights, it's on the ballot. Free speech is on the ballot. So many things are on the ballot, whether people want to believe it or not. Okay, Canada is going to give Ukraine $300 million in new military aid. I'll talk about that in a moment. I'll lose the news feed. Think I did, but I'll get it back. So these are some of the things that are on the ballot. And as I said before, it might not affect the vast majority of you, but it affects everyday people. It affects mothers, trying to take care of a family and pay for all the after school activities, because money is associated with every school activity. They can't even sell cookies the way they used to try to sell them. What about all the equipment that the children are using? That costs money. Driving from one event to another. These are serious issues. For those who go to private or parochial schools, the money for the uniforms is getting out of hand. Some of you all, if you can afford it, you have your children in private educational institutions. But the vast majority of the people are struggling to pay those tuition fees, so their child or children can have a better time with a better educational criteria, so that the opportunities will present themselves. Let me give you a news flash. Degrees don't get jobs. Certifications don't get people jobs. People are the ones who have to impress a potential employer to hire you, because anything can be said on a resume. Anything can be put in print. A lot of people have bluffed their way into getting the job. I'm going to tell you where the money is being made at, and where you might want to think about shifting some of your mind energy. Vocational training. What do you think AI is? Vocational training. Engineering, vocational training. Engineering, internet, vocational training. When you need a plumber, you don't want a plumber who has a PhD in plumbology, but doesn't know the difference between a wrench and a screwdriver. You want a plumber that knows how to get the job done. When you have a problem with your heating apparatus, you want somebody that can come into the home and fix that heater. If you have a problem with the refrigerator, you want an expert that knows how to get the job done. What about the air conditioning problem? The sewage problem? Talk back to me. What about for those who want to have catered events? You want somebody who knows exactly what to prepare, when to prepare it, how to prepare it. There's nothing wrong with going to a culinary institute for one to get extra skills. I went to a place called the American Academy of Broadcasting when I came out of high school because I wanted to work in radio. I didn't want the theoretical teachings. I wanted to be able to do the job. I went there for 2 years studying comprehensive broadcasting and comprehensive engineering for 2 years. And when the 2 years was over, an opportunity was presented to me to work at a local radio station. Didn't make a lot of money, but didn't matter because I was doing it. Don't tell me that vocational training is not important. It's vastly important. When you take your car to the auto shop, you don't want a dealer trying to sell you a brand new car every time you come up in there. You want an auto mechanic. And auto mechanics are taught in vocational schools. That's how they learn. That's just an example. Let me read the comments real quick. I have my Christian school, but that getting high, so put in public school. Yep, Christian schools are very high. And they say they're doing it for the love of God. You know what they say? This is a Christian atmosphere. We're conservatives, blah, blah, yada, 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 the spiel. But they keep charging astronomical fees in Christian schools. And she couldn't stay. She couldn't stay home. This is what I'm talking about. Just because you're in a public school doesn't mean that it's inferior. Do like I did when I was in public school growing up. I did a lot of self-studying on my own. I didn't just take the teacher's word for what they were saying. They had a certain curriculum and criteria that they wanted to be governed by. I began to read and study on my own independently from being involved in the English class or the history class or any other geography class. And I learned things because I desired to learn it. So think about vocational schools as an alternative to going to overpriced educational institutions. So coming from Ottawa, Canada, Canada is giving Ukraine $300 million. Wow. In new military aid and will impose sanctions on 100 vessels from Russia's shadow fleet, Defense Minister David McGuty told reporters on Tuesday. The new money is part of a what? $2 billion aid package that McGuty unveiled. Most of the funding had already been announced in last November's budget. That's a lot of military aid. That's a lot of money. I'm getting ready to go in a few moments, but because when I come on here, I just want to come and share news stories with you. And I may come back later because I don't want to, I'm trying my best not to make the videos be too long. So I wanted to, oh boy, every time we turn around. All right, this is coming from the BBC News. Google apologizes for BAFTA's alert to see more on racial slur. Google has apologized for sending a news alert on this year's BAFTA award ceremony that suggested people read further into a racial slur. The alert was for a story on the fallout from the ceremony during which a member of the audience with Tourette's syndrome used the slur in an involuntary tick when actors Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo took to the stage. A Google spokesperson told the BBC, quote, "We're deeply sorry for this mistake. We've removed the offensive notification and are working to prevent this from happening again." Well, how about this? Why did it happen to begin with? See, what's in the mind of people will come out of their mouths eventually. Don't fool yourself. Whatever is in your heart, whatever is on your mind. And you're going to say it after a while. That's why I don't play with folk. I say exactly what's on my mind. You don't have to guess. You don't have to wonder. You don't have to surmise. I will say it. Why is Google apologizing for the racial slur? Why don't the person who said it do the apologizing? Why does an executive from Google have to apologize for one of its racist employees? And this ain't the first time they heard this idiot say something reckless out of his mouth, because he probably has been saying it all the time. When people say, "Oh my God, I've never said anything like that before in my life. I'm not a racist." Yes, you are. Because stuff don't just slip out. That's who you are. So the alert was for a story on the fallout from the ceremony during which a member of the audience with Tourette's syndrome used a slur. People on social media claim the offensive language in the alert was due to Google's use of generative AI, but the company said that was not the case. Y'all are not going to continue to blame everything on AI. AI does not operate by itself. It's called artificial intelligence. It is programmed to think and talk in a certain vein. AI had nothing to do with it. That's what was in the mouth of the individual. Instead, Google's see more suggestion using the racial slur stemmed from a failure within its safety features for push notifications or alerts that come through as a text on a user's phone or device. Well, how about this? Who programmed it? Did the artificial intelligence computer program itself? Did it say, since I am AI, I want you to put some racial epithets in here for me so I can spew them out at the appropriate time? It is those programmers, the geeks, the programmers who do the programming that insert whatever is offensive to culturally different people. Computers don't work by themselves. Robots don't work by themselves. They have a central command where individuals are holding it down, making sure that everything is done. The company admitted the incident shouldn't have happened, and work was being done now to improve safety triggers and guardrails that should have stopped the language in Monday's news alert. Google News is one of the most downloaded news apps in the U.S. I don't give two flips a win about that. At this point in time, I don't care if Google is big, large, small, in between. You know what you're doing. You know exactly what you're doing. The computer programmers know what they're doing. They know. They know exactly what they're saying. They know exactly what they're doing. Here's something coming from BBC News. The U.S. government drops a case against Democrats in illegal orders video. Federal prosecutors in Washington have dropped their case against 6 Democratic lawmakers who released a video urging military service members to refuse illegal orders. The decision, confirmed by the BBC's media partner CBS News, follows U.S. Attorney Jean Pereiro's office failing to secure a grand jury indictment against the 6 military and intelligence veterans. They knew when they brought the charges they were bogus. Ladies and gentlemen, listen, just because somebody sues you doesn't mean they're going to win. Because somebody brings a lawsuit against you doesn't mean you said or did anything wrong. Let them bring the lawsuit. Let them say what they want. They have to prove intent. You have to prove maliciousness if you're saying somebody assassinated your character. I'm a black man in America who grew up black in one of the most volatile, racist, bigoted parts of the city, and I'm not damaged psychologically nor emotionally. I learned how to fight back at an early age and stand up for myself. We've been fighting these wars since we were children. So my feelings won't get hurt. You can say whatever you want out of your mouth. Just don't put your hands on me. But you can say whatever you want. That's your right. That's your prerogative. But people don't have the right to put their hands on people. Just like, let me say something to a lot of protesters around the country. Yes, you do have the right to protest, but you don't have the right to obstruct. You don't have the right to put your hands on people. You don't have the right to try to sabotage people's cars. You don't have the right to be disorderly. You don't have the right just to say any and everything out of your mouth in a reckless fashion. That's where it's going too far. When you're protesting for a right cause, a righteous cause, a just cause, there's a way to do it appropriately, and there's a way that you do not do it. And the other side of the protest news story is every protester is not the innocent individual that people think they are, because a lot of them got smart mouths, reckless mouths, filthy mouths, and they say all kind of verbiage out of their mouths during the process of protesting. So because you have the right to say something, that doesn't mean you have the right to be reckless and disregard in your approach to it. Just like I've often said this about the politics of polarization. One group of people doesn't get to say whatever they want to say whenever they want to say it, and then the other side cannot retort and say anything. It don't go like that. If you want to have freedom of speech to say and do whatever you want, then the opposite party has the same freedom of speech to disagree with your assertion and your conclusions. Doesn't mean people should hate one another and try to kill each other and murder each other because of political differences, families not speaking to each other. Because you're a Trump supporter, I hate you. Well, since you're a Biden supporter, I hate you. Since you're Kamala Harris, we cut you off forever. This is stupidity. Because these people will be long gone out of politics, but your family is going to last forever. So pick your battles. Do a lot of the people who are protesting, do they suffer damage from those who claim to enforce the law? Yes, every day. Because many of the law enforcement officers, they're agitators. They like to go goat people into saying things and doing things. They'll deliberately put themselves in situations somebody would just tap them and they would call that assault and battery. They want to lock the person up for 50 years. And isn't it ironic that all these ICE officers are getting caught up in all kind of stuff, committing all kind of crimes and being charged? What's going on here? So, on both sides, people need to be adequately informed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm about to get up out of here for this episode here. Got to take a break because I've been on for quite some time now. I've got to take a break. I want to thank you all for watching. And if you come across a news story or a video that you want me to talk about, send it to me at Tyrone Bowman Sr. at gmail.com. That's Tyrone Bowman Sr. at gmail.com. I'll make sure you get the credit for it. I'll make sure you get the acknowledgement, and I'll make sure you get the shout out for it. Because a lot of news stories I'm probably missing. But I'm working on it to get better. So just a one-person operation for now, but it will get better. Quote, I live in Southern Illinois, in my hometown. It's country town. I wish... Wow. You said you wish you'd never come back because it's more racist than ever? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for watching. Never surrender. Never quit.